hobgoblins, rhinos, and way too much of that famous Parker luck. It's all right here in our review of Amazing Spider-Man #1 from Marvel Comics. See you in 3, 2, 1. Welcome back to Comical Opinions. On first pass, Amazing Spider-Man #1 is better than the Zeb Wells run. That's probably the first question you're going to want to ask yourself. Is it better? The answer is yes. Is it a fantastic issue? No, not even close. It's, at best, I would say aggressively mid. But it's an improvement, so that's better than nothing. Let's start with what's great about Amazing Spider-Man #1. It feels like, I hate to use this phrase, a return to form. Joe Kelly gives you lots of Spider-Man quips and snappy dialogue. You get a classic fight between Spider-Man and the Rhino, and you get some interesting developments from a mystery that's happening in the background involving the Hobgoblin. All the basics are there, and it doesn't have anything in the issue, I know this sounds like a backhanded compliment, it doesn't have anything in the issue that actively will infuriate you. It's okay, and that's about as good as you can put it. So what's not great about Amazing Spider-Man #1? There's really two primary areas I think people are just not going to be turned on by. First, it's a very dialogue-heavy issue, very light on the action. Now, this is a superhero comic. You want action. You don't get much of it. The fight between Spider-Man and Rhino is pretty good, but it's very brief. Everything else is dialogue, conversations, exposition, hints, teases, and what have you. So if you're looking to get smacked in the face with big moments and big wow impressions, you're not going to get that with this first issue. It's very much setting up the status quo, kind of level setting with people who are potentially new readers and getting you on the even footing, but it's accomplished through a lot of dialogue. The second piece you're not going to like, if you are sick to death of continually seeing stories that lean on that famous Parker luck where Peter Parker is just beat up over and over again, and not just physically, I'm talking about mentally, emotionally, from the people around him, through circumstances, through fate, whatever else. It starts with a montage that shows that he's a schlub that's getting sucker punched by fate at every turn. Whenever he catches a break, he gets another gut punch from fate in that famous Parker luck. It gets really obnoxious, and if you're sick of it, you're going to be even more sick of it in this first issue. It doesn't take over everything, but it's like a pervasive sore spot, so it's a real turnoff. Let's switch gears and talk about the art. So who do we have on art duties? We have Pepe Larraz, and now he's one of the top artists at Marvel, so it's no surprise this issue looks pretty darn good. He brings his A game. The lines are clean, the faces are very lively and expressive, and the Rhino brawl pops off the page. It's very energetic, very dynamic, very hard-hitting. Looks great. Peter's grims and grimaces hit just right, although Pepe Larraz sometimes can get a little bit elastic with his character expressions. He toes that line between expressive enough so that you get a clear understanding of the character's emotions versus getting so exaggerated that it gets cartoony. He toes that line pretty well, maybe a little too close, but overall, this book looks fantastic. Alright, if you want a little bit of the rundown of the story, here's what's inside. Peter is bouncing between job interviews. That Parker luck unfortunately kicks in because each one of the interviewers sort of brings up a problem in his past related to past storylines, which unfortunately wind up being duds. So you sort of get a meta commentary about failed storylines in ASM, which I'm not sure anybody really wants to revisit, but there you go. He later goes to meet with Aunt May, and during that meeting, he gets a call that he's got a job offer from Rand Enterprises, thanks to an internal recommendation from a guy named Brian Nearing, who Peter went to school with when they were in grade school or middle school. On the first day on the job, unfortunately, as they're making their grand tour, Peter sees Rhino rampaging down the middle of the street. So now there's that Peter luck kicking in. He has to exit from his job without explanation, go down, change into Spider-Man, and fight the Rhino. He eventually wins, but he can tell something's off about the Rhino. He's in berserker mode. He's not listening, he's not paying attention, and he's just going hog wild crazy. The fight is stressful enough that Rhino actually has a heart attack and Spider-Man has to deliver CPR. Later, during a double date, Peter is with Shay while Randy Robertson is with his date, and he learns that there's some kind of oddity going on with the families in Randy's vicinity, the people that he is a social worker for, and they all happen to be in the same location where Rhino lives, who's a Russian guy by the name of Sergei, by the way. A little bit later, we catch up with Roderick Kingsley, who you might remember is Hobgoblin. He hears that Rhino was hospitalized after having a heart attack after going into berserker mode. We learn through the conversation with his assistant that there's some sort of chemical reason why the Rhino went berserker and eventually collapsed due to a heart attack. He wants nobody to find out whatever chemicals are in Rhino's system, so he tells this shadowy figure who is nearby, who you never fully see, to make sure that Rhino doesn't talk. All of this shenanigans going on is raising Peter's suspicions, so he switches into Spidey mode. He breaks into Rhino's apartment, and there he is attacked by this shadow figure that Roger Kingsley has sent off to eliminate all evidence. And the shadow figure, some way, somehow, we don't quite clearly know, zaps Spidey's brain, and he has this weird disorienting vision of all of his Spider Rogues Gallery attacking him all at once, and he goes nuts. Normally we don't talk about the backups, but since this is a new number one with a new creative team, we might as well. In the backup, which is drawn by John Romita Jr., but also written by Joe Kelly, we are at a press conference run by Norman Osborn. During the press conference, Norman intends to announce that he is going to retire from Oscorp. During the press conference, he's attacked by a gentleman who is cybernetically enhanced, and he starts shooting everybody with laser beams. Norman jumps him, rips off his robot arms, and puts the guy down. He doesn't kill him, but deactivates him. When that happens, Norman decides that instead of running away into obscurity, he has to use his great power to be responsible for what he's done and make amends. It's an interesting backup, but it's kind of annoying because it runs at odds with the end of the Zeb Wells run, because if you remember in that run, Norman out of the blue just announced to Peter that he had shut down Oscorp and he was going to just live a relaxed, retired life. It sort of jives, but retiring from Oscorp to go live by yourself is different than shutting Oscorp down. The two don't mix. Which one is right? I don't know. Does anybody care? Probably not. What does this have to do with the main issue? At this point, nothing, but it may come back later. It's a decent backup, but not a great one. So final thoughts when we think about Amazing Spider-Man number 1. It begins a new day with a new creative team and Peter Parker finding a new job while Spider-Man stumbles onto a new mystery. Joe Kelly's script is a decent improvement over the Zeb Wells run on the whole, but it's a lot of talking, not much drama, and the one bit of action is a little too short. Plus you get a way too much of that Parker luck trope stuff going on. That part is pretty annoying. On the plus side, Pepe Larraz's art is fantastic. So good art, decent mystery, could be better. Therefore, Amazing Spider-Man number 1 from Marvel Comics earns a 6 out of 10. You know what? What were your hopes and dreams and expectations for this? I think it still feels like a lot of carryover from the previous run, but maybe that's okay for you. Or maybe you just wanted a clean break and a fresh start and forget any of the past 2 or 3 years that ever happened. Let me know your expectations down in the comments below. So thank you very much for joining, and stay tuned through the outro for more reviews just like this one.